Hello, and welcome to the Soul Sisters and Seekers podcast. My name is Aruna.
My name's Liz.
I'm Gayathri.
I'm Vidhya.
And if you've been watching our podcast, you know that we are four friends that love to talk about topics that are related to spirituality. We encourage you to engage with us. You can subscribe to our channel or like our videos or ask us a question using our comment section. Today's question comes from Liz.
My question today is about the concept of surrender. And what does the spiritual aspect of surrender mean to you? My question today is about the concept of surrender. And what does the spiritual aspect of surrender mean to you? To me, it means accepting the way things are and letting go of the outcome of a situation, trusting that the universe will take care of things for you.
I think for me, it is trusting the divine force. And I think we all believe in spirituality. So it's just that I am not the doer. I cannot control things that happen around me. I do have some level of control of free will that I can use. But however the situation goes, just accepting, like you said, Liz, like accepting and just going with the flow.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think we don't have control over a lot of things, and surrendering helps us to accept what comes. It helps us to cope with anxiety. It helps us to cope with situations that are out of control. When we give up our sense of control and allow things to happen as per divine will, then I think it kind of takes the onus off of us, takes off pressure off of us to do the next thing or to make the right move. Like it's not almost giving up responsibility, but it is kind of allowing for things to kind of, unravel as they should. And it just kicks off the edge a little bit. And then I think allows you to live in the present moment.
So I feel the same way. Surrendering is to me giving in to life's flow. That doesn't mean, like Vidya said, that doesn't mean I don't think that I don't have free will. I do have free will, but I have a choice to surrender to the path that life takes me in, or I can fight that path. To me, not fighting and allowing for it is surrender.
So I think
Okay.
when surrender comes in really handy is when things don't go our way, right? So
Yeah,
think-
that was my
Mhm.
next question. When is it a good time to practice surrender?
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah. So answering that question, I
Yeah.
think the time to practice surrender is
I
when
think you
things
leaked the
aren't
question
going.
paper, Liz.
Yeah, when things don't go as expected, things don't go as per your prayers. Because sometimes you pray for something and it doesn't happen the way you want it to, because you know that there's a higher plan or a different plan for you. And then knowing that, and I think having, again, surrender is very, very close to faith, right? If you have to have them kind of in a pair. Like if you don't have faith, you can't have surrender. You can't surrender because the faith is, the pillar that is the surrender is kind of attached to. So if you know, if you know that there is a divine force in your life, then I think you automatically have the ability to surrender. If you don't have that force, then you couldn't surrender because then you question everything.
So Joe Dispenza has this beautiful quote on surrender, and I just had to bring it up. He says, "Surrender your limited reality to the infinite mind." So, do we do that to ourselves? Do we limit our reality? Can our life be so much more than what it already is? And how do we get there? By surrendering to the infinite possibilities of this universe. It has, maybe our reality is bigger than we think it's going to be. So,
Mhm.
I really like that quote by him.
Yeah, often I think when we have wishes and when we say, I would like, and we quantify the wish and say, okay, you know, like I want to be happy. If I have a house, I'll be happy. If I have a job, I'll be happy. Like if you kind of pray for certain things, and you're paying, you don't know by praying for certain things, then you might be limiting what the universe could make possible for you. And I'm not talking just materially, but certain ambitions or certain things that you want for your family and so on. So I think in that sense, the universe is full of possibilities. And sometimes we can, by mistake, kind of limit ourselves with prayer or with our affirmations, whatever tools that we use in our spiritual toolbox, to kind of try and manifest the life that we want. Sometimes we can kind of limit ourselves. And I think maybe that's when you read that quote, that's what it reminded me of, just kind of not being careful with the language that we use, being careful with our thoughts, because when we even envision things and even the vision boards, right? People use vision boards and sometimes they're like, oh, I envisioned this house, I envisioned this car, I envisioned so on. And that's also another tool in the, in the path of life if you want to kind of manifest certain things for your life. And sometimes those things can even be limiting. Like why limit yourself to that? There's so many other possibilities in life outside of just even material things. So I think when you surrender and when your prayer is just so much as like, I surrender to you, to divine will, that I that whatever may come, whatever is possible for me in my life, let that come about through your will. And kind of like surrender everything. And then that just kind of leaves it wide open. And maybe that language is not exactly it, but just that kind of idea of just opening it up instead of saying, I need this in my life. I need this particular job. I need this particular spouse. I need this particular number of kids, so on. I think sometimes we just get so focused on trying to compare your life with other people's lives. It's like you want what other people have. But then if you kind of allow things to unfold for your life, it can be so much more enriching than just what you had even imagined for yourself.
It's like also I think not having any regrets. I don't know if you all feel this way, but just like how you said, Aruna, just going with the flow is one thing. Taking life as it comes is another thing, and also like whatever happens, like have no regrets. That's what I try to work on in my life. Whatever has happened so far in the last, like, say, 45 years, I'm completely happy. Like all the happy moments, sad moments, we go through a lot of emotions. Everything, like, I think of it as an experience that guided me to the next level. Like, so
Mhm.
it had to happen so that I could progress further in life. That's how I take it. And but I do think, can we surrender completely? When you all say like surrendering 100%, do you think it's possible? Because I really doubt myself. Even say you're having a fight with your spouse, for example, just a simple example. If like you would surrender to the divine force completely, how you would react in that situation, versus if you don't surrender to the divine force, how you would be reacting to that situation. And I often think, even though I trust the divine force, often that's where I think like ego and the I factor comes in and takes us away from that reality, right? Like, do you all feel that way sometimes? Because if we completely surrender, we should just be perfectly happy, like joyful, just like the way we are. But often we are not.
I think so. I've been reflecting on that particular part about interactions with people. I think to assume that when you're in relationship with somebody, especially an intimate relationship, to think that you would not have hurt or you would not have um, any so-called negative feelings. I think that's a false expectation. I think the closer the relationship is, the more you get hurt because you're
Mm.
more open to that. You're more open to the person, you're more open to the relationship. So there's a higher likelihood of that person hurting you, right? With I think we all have people in our lives where we are not that open with, right? So they hurt us less. To answer your question, or rather to reflect on your question, Vidya, I think if we don't come from the personality and without history, and take the challenge, take the argument, or take the misunderstanding as it is for what it is, without any history, I find there's a divine flow that comes in, and the right words are said, and the right solution is arrived at. But the moment we bring history, the moment we bring a certain kind of knowing, or the moment we think to ourselves, he or she hurt me the same way last week or last month or last year, then you're not meeting whatever the challenge is for what it is.
Can surrender like hurt the way you move through your life and affect the way you make decisions? And the reason I'm saying this is, like, say you're in a relationship or in a friendship where you surrender because you think you have lessons to learn from it. When does the surrender become almost like a self-sacrifice? Like, but then, do you put up with that friendship or relationship because you think that that's what's meant to be for you, and you have to go through it because it's karmic? Or do you walk away from that saying, you know what, I've had enough and I need to, go on um, to break up that relationship and move on?
For me, I ask myself the question, is this fear-based? Am I staying in this relationship or friendship because I'm afraid to lose this person, because I need something from this person? More importantly, am I afraid to lose this person? Am I feeling like I can't be without this person? That's very fear-based, right? Then the decision is really very self-serving. But if we genuinely feel this is the right one, even though not all our needs are met, then that's the right place to be.
I would
Yeah.
also question if I'm hurting too much from that relationship or friendship. Because if at the end of the day, if you're not at peace, then why would I sacrifice my time and energy to get to a spot where I am, like, hurting, really hurting, and right? So
Yeah. It's not that easy,
self-sacrifice has
right?
to be for the right reason. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially, okay, say it's a relationship with a job, like, you have a job and do I stick with this position because it's not good for me? The relationship with my manager is not that good for me, but then leaving it is not also not that good for me. But then, that kind of like tension there. And then it's like, okay, I have lessons to learn from this relationship, this business relationship, but at the same time, it'll hurt to walk away from this relationship as well. Maybe surrendering is not like a tool for decision making.
Yeah. I think that's where we apply our free will, just making the right decision. And maybe there is a divine force guiding you with that process, but you have
Okay,
to
so
make the right choice.
so that's a good segue for my next question. That leads to this question. How does surrendering relate to faith or trust in a higher power? So is it about trust and faith? How much of our faith is based on surrendering what we don't know, right? Do we surrender
Yeah.
to the unknown and trust that
That's where I
it's
said,
yeah.
because we don't, at least I speak for myself. When I say I surrender, like I say I pray to God, just take care of the situation. I'm going through something really bad, and I'm saying, please take care of this. We don't want to get hurt or something like that. But then you also tend to worry, right? Surrendering doesn't mean you completely having that 100% faith. and just moving on. I don't think I am there yet. I do get anxious. I do try to worry about the situation, um, even though I say surrender. So I don't know, like, how much of faith is just believing things will, just trusting the higher self, saying, everything will end up fine. Means maybe I'll not deal with the situation same time tomorrow. So just having that picture in your mind. But I don't
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
can surrender like 100% yet. Yeah.
I think I've surrendered a lot of aspects of my life, and my motto is everything will always work out for me. And that's all. I just let it go and see what happens and see what life unfolds. I think Gayathri, you were saying about how life unfolds in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's the surrender that I'm talking about, letting life unfold for you.
Yeah, I don't think we can conditionally surrender, right? I think that's where we get caught. We conditionally surrender. I think surrendering means without conditioning. Whether we want it or not, life is going to turn out the way it turns out. We can kick and
Right.
scream all the way, or we can go with it.
Yeah.
And Vidya, I think you can back me up on this. In the non-dual path or in Advaitic Vedanta, the place where you get stuck is you say life is living through me. I'm the observer of it, life is living through me. At the same time, you're saying, I don't mean you, I mean um, we say, I need to make this decision, I need to do this, I need to do that. So there's a dichotomy right there. We confuse the heck out of ourselves. Right? We need to pick one thing and stay with it. And to me, I think surrendering means unconditional surrendering. And sometimes it's so hard because you want a certain end result. I want a certain end result. But I think that's where, so what I do if I completely surrender, knowing very well I want a certain end result, then I look at myself to see why is it that I want this? What is this resistance I'm feeling to completely surrendering? Like, why am I so hung up on this? And there's always a lesson there.
Mm.
I mean, anytime you have an action, you have a preference for how it's going to play out, right? Anytime you take an action, it's like if I'm going to apply for a job, it's with the intention that I would like an interview or I would like to potentially secure a position. So, I mean, it's difficult to surrender to something like to an action like that and say, well, whatever happens, happens, because the desire is there.
Yeah, as who says this? Something about leading edge. I think it's Abraham Hicks who says, you're always at the leading edge of the next evolution of your own self. So having a desire means life is living through you.
Mhm.
And leading you to the next version of you, which is, I have this desire for this job. I go to the interview with the view of getting the job. That's life living through you and taking you on the path that's for you.
Mhm.
But I think where we get stuck is having like intense emotions around how things should turn out.
Right. So if you go to the interview and you want the job, you don't get the job, and you just like, okay, this is not meant to be because there's going to be something better for me. So,
Haven't we all had experiences in life where it seems like nothing is going right or nothing makes sense, but then 5 years after, we're looking back and seeing how beautifully the dots were connected. And somehow every little thing that didn't make sense had a hand to play.
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times you're
Yeah.
like, oh, thank God that relationship didn't work out, or thank God that I didn't go to that particular school because I wouldn't have met this particular person, or these relationships that I have now, I wouldn't have. So, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, and going back to your question, I think, as I mentioned before, Liz, I think faith is, I don't think you can have surrender without faith. I think they're interdependent.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
Hmm.
Now, just one more question. Is surrendering a one-time event, or is it an ongoing process? Do we?
It's constant, it's every day, it's 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
7 days a
Pretty
week.
much.
Constantly surrender.
I was just thinking one-time event is just kind of funny. Yeah. No.
Or maybe not
Yeah.
like is it an event? Or is it a state of being? That might be, you
Yeah.
know, I think it's a state of being because
And it takes practice, right? That
yeah.
state of being, I think it you have to practice it all the time. Every situation that comes about, you're kind of like, okay, this is happening for a reason. This is happening. And this is like even the smallest things, right? Like even the smallest things, whether you have some, and it could be something to do with your eye, like I'm having some issue with my eye, I have to go to the doctor. This is happening for a reason. I don't know why, but I'm supposed to be going to see that doctor. I'm supposed to be at that location at this time. Could be I'm stopped at a traffic light for, or I'm turning right and somebody is taking their time crossing. It's like this is happening for a reason because I'm not supposed to be where, like you, and if you actually, it's such it's such a release of tension when you go through life like that, because every queue that you're standing in, every red light that you go to, it just allows you to just like, be patient, and it kind of allow things to unfold. So I think for me it's definitely a practice, and it's ongoing, and you have to keep reminding yourself all the time. And then it's hard, though. It's hard to accept things as they come, but I definitely think it's like a state of being that it needs a lot of practice.
For me,
Right.
my experience has been so to be transparent, I follow the non-dual path. And for me, I went through a phase where I was so much in it, and I was constantly sitting in the place of self uh, awareness, watching life, that it became what's in popular culture known as bypassing. So that I wasn't engaged in life, I was constantly watching life. Um, so at this point, then I had to make that switch. I started engaging in life. And the moment I engaged in life, then guess what? Then surrender becomes an activity,
Mm.
because now you're in life with all its abrasions, right? So you're constantly surrendering. And to me, that's such a rich and alive way of being than constantly sitting back in a place of surrender. Then you become almost numb.
Yeah, I agree with you too. Like for me also, it's a constant thing, and I have to constantly reassure myself. And one thing I try to practice every day is, no matter what kind of day you are having. Like for example, if I pray to God every day, I do that. So it's not, so even when I'm like very, very happy, I go and I pray. I thank God for giving me that moment. Because a lot of times you hear people pray to God when they are going through difficult times. That is one thing I try to, that has changed in the recent past for me. I always pray no matter what comes in my life. So I think that itself is like surrendering, just trusting the divine force all the time, and just going with the flow.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. That was a great question. Thank you all for an engaging and lively conversation, as always. And with that, let's wrap up today's podcast session. So if you're watching this, please, another reminder to please subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions for us to talk about or answer, please do enter that in the comment section, and like our videos, and so that you can help us to grow our community. With that, I say namaste. Thank you very much, everyone.
Namaste.
Okay.